Okay, I just wanted to make some prefatory remarks before I get into the actual paper. The reason I couldn't put together a visual presentation is because the whole last week I was doing interviews to try and combat Peter Jennings and ABC. I was actually up like for 36 hours one night doing as many interviews as I possibly could do. And we actually have a website now called abclies.com, which we go into several matters about why that documentary was put together, why it was so slanted, and whether or not Gus Russo ever really was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize, as he says he was in several places on the internet. He says he was, the Pulitzer Committee says no. So make up your mind. It's, one thing about this media barrage, I pity the country that 40 years later has to choose between Peter Jennings and Nigel Turner. Okay? I mean, am I the only person that noticed that on the History Channel that they left in the whole first Men Who Killed Kennedy, in which in that one he says with Steve Revell on camera that the Corsican Mafia killed Kennedy. And then 3 nights later, he says, no, it's a Texas connection. They really killed Kennedy. And they have to be mutually exclusive because one never mentions anybody in the other one. So, another thing, I never really expected, I really did expect something for this 40th anniversary. I never really expected this kind of 24/7 stuff, which was going on the whole last week. And one good thing about it is, if anybody saw the Chris Matthews thing on MSNBC called "The Day That Changed America," it was good because he was hardly in it. He was only in it like for about the last 4 or 5 minutes, And they interviewed like all these celebrities like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and Jay Leno and et cetera, Ed Harris and all the way down the line. And it was really neat because at the end, I thought, geez, all that money they gave Seymour Hersh and it didn't work. They get all this money, all this barrage to desecrate Kennedy's memory, and all these people are talking like Hersh's book never happened. It was the most terrible day. The country's never been the same, etc. Tom Brokaw says, no president ever captured the public imagination the way that Kennedy did. Not even Reagan, and Reagan's people will tell you that because that's where he got it. So that was a really nice thing about the last week. All right, I'm going to talk about, did Oswald order the rifle? I used to be known as the Garrison guy, those many years ago when I first started coming to these things, But I'm kind of glad that I'm not the Garrison guy anymore, and other people have actually surpassed me, like Bill Davey and Joan Mellon, So I kind of feel like I passed the baton on, and I can actually start doing something else for a change. According to the Warren Commission, Oswald orders the rifle on March the 12th. That's the postmark on the envelope. And according to Harry Holmes, the postal inspector, it's 10:30 in the morning. Okay, on the morning of March the 12th, according to the time cards in the Warren Commission, Oswald is at JCS, Jagger Child Stovall, and he's working on 9 jobs that morning. He doesn't get off until 12:15. All right, the lunch break is supposed to be from 12:15 to 12:45. And there's no indication on those time cards that he ever took time off to go to the post office to go ahead and mail the coupon. All right? All right, now, here's another problem. It goes from Dallas to Klein's in Chicago in 24 hours. All right, and not only does it get there in 24 hours, according to Klein's, the order was mailed, received, processed, and deposited within 24 hours. And this, remember, this is like way before computers, where you couldn't do this stuff electronically. All right. William Waldman of Klein's testified on this, and he was never challenged on any of these statements. The questioning attorney was David Bellin. When the FBI originally talked to Waldman, okay, they actually told him, we don't want you talking to anybody else. about this specific matter, including the Secret Service. Now, how is the money order then located? All right, Harry Holmes says he found the money order, and he says the FBI originally gave him the wrong information about the purchase concerning the actual price and the actual date. Okay? But this is kind of odd because they've already talked to Waldman on the evening of the 22nd. So he should have known, okay, what it was and when it was sent. All right, he says he doesn't find the actual money order until the 23rd, late on the afternoon. All right, and he says he was tipped off to the correct information by the FBI, but he never gave out who the guy in the FBI who tipped him off, what his name was. All right, the bank deposit, which allegedly includes Oswald's money order for $21.45, is deposited to the First National Bank of Chicago. And this was part of a larger bank order for $13,827.98. And there's some odd things about this particular deposit. Okay, Wilmoth from the bank identified a postal money order of $21.45 in that deposit, but when you examine the actual deposit, there is no differentiation between what is a cash deposit, what is a check, and what is a money order. So how could he possibly know which one was Oswald's money order? Okay, Wilmoth also says that $21.45 was included in a sub-deposit of $1,536.11. And that was then included in a larger deposit of $6,178. But if you look at the slip, neither one of those is on the slip. Neither the subset or the larger amount is in there. All right? There's also a discrepancy in the dates of the deposit slip. At the end of the deposit slip, it says deposited 3/13/63. But on the top sheet, which covers everything, the date is February the 15th, 1963. All right? How could Oswald have written a money order in March that was deposited in February? Finally, if the February date is the correct one, okay, this is approximately about, 4 weeks before Oswald was ever supposed to have gone to the post office. All right, the actual money order allegedly used by Oswald is not found until November the 24th at 10 p.m. as it's being processed through the system. While other postal orders by Oswald were found in Kansas City, okay, this one was actually found at the Federal Records Center in Alexandria, Virginia. It was then turned over to the FBI on November the 26th. All right, now here's another problem. Banks are in the business to make money. They don't take checks unless they deposit them. If you look at this money order, it doesn't ever appear to have been deposited by the bank. All right? Wilmoth testified to the FBI that every money order should have 3 stamps on the back. All right? The first one is that the First National Bank of Chicago endorsed the money order, the check. The second one is that when they passed it on to the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, they received it, and their stamp should be there. And then the third one should be in the Records Center, where it actually ended up, in this case, Kansas City. But if you look at this money order, Volume 17 of the Warren Commission, page 677, none of those stamps is on it. Okay? So it doesn't appear that Klein's ever processed, this money order. Okay, so why? And why was Wilmoth never ever testified before the Warren Commission itself? All the information is from his FBI interviews. All right. Other checks cashed by Oswald do have all those stamps. Okay, and you can find those also in the Warren Commission. When David Bellin asked Waldman when the money order was deposited by Klein's, his reply was, quote, "I cannot specifically say when the money order was deposited by our company." Okay, finally, according to Louis Feldsot of Crescent Firearms, which is supposed to be the originating company of the Mannlicher Carcano rifles, which are then sent to Klein's, okay, that sale took place on June the 18th, 1962. But when Waldman testified on the same point, he said the order was not placed until January 24th, 1963. All right, let's take a look at the other end of the transaction. Since there's a lot of confusion at the receiving end, how about Oswald on the sending side? All right, as I said, it's kind of doubtful that according to the JCS time records, that Oswald could have actually left the office when he was supposed to be so busy that morning on March the 12th, and then mailed it at 10:30, all right, and then returned without any notation in any of his work records. But there's something even more odd about this. The envelope in which the money order and the coupon for the rifle were mailed in contained the return address reads A. Heidel, P.O. Box 2915, Dallas, Texas, and then there's a numeral 12 next to it. And the numeral 12 designates the postal zone from which the envelope is mailed, okay? And I think there's 13 in Dallas, okay? All right, now, the one where Oswald was supposed to have mailed the form from is in the downtown zone, which is designated Zone 1. Okay? So if you believe this evidence, all right, you have to believe that Oswald first walks 11 blocks to the post office, okay? He gets the money order, signs off on the money order, makes out the envelope, but instead of mailing it at the post office, which is right there, and of course the mail is going to get circulated much quicker when you drop it right into the bin, he then walks 7 miles to the Trinity River, okay? And he drops it in a mailbox, okay? And then he has to walk all the way back to work. So he's going to be gone like 45 minutes, maybe an hour. All right? When I go to the post office, I drop my mail off there, and I never, walk 7 more miles, to drop something off. All right, now, did Oswald ever receive the rifle? The FBI allegedly obtained a document which shows that a 6.5 Mannlicher Carcano with a 4-power scope was shipped to A. Heidel, P.O. Box 2915, Dallas, Texas, on March 20th, 1963 by parcel post. Okay, Oswald rents the box at the main post office on October the 9th, 1962. And on that box application, he wrote the name Lee H. Oswald as the only person who could get mail from that P.O. box. Nobody else is listed as being able to take stuff out of the box. All right, and the FBI was aware of this fact, and in one of their internal memos, they say, quote, "It should be noted that although Oswald used the name A. Heidel in placing the order for the murder weapon, this name does not appear on the application for the P.O. box to which the gun was shipped." So here's the problem. How did the post office give the gun to someone who did not order it? All right? And the Warren Commission was aware of this point also. So they write on page 121 of the Warren Report, quote, "It is not known whether the application for Post Office Box 2915 listed A. Heidel as a person entitled to receive mail at this box. In accordance with postal regulations, the portion of the application which lists names of persons other than the applicant entitled to receive mail was thrown away after the box was closed in May 1963. That's what it says in the report, that the application was thrown away. Well, that's a problem because if you look at volume 19, page 286, there it is. Okay? It's right there in their own volumes. All right, and it lists Lee H. Oswald as the only person allowed to receive mail there. So it appears that the Warren Commission either wasn't aware of this or they just lied about it. All right? All right, and why do they have to do this? Because they have to get around another postal regulation, regulation number 355.111, which precluded Heidel from getting the rifle. This regulation says that if a piece of mail is addressed to a person at a P.O. box who is not authorized to get it, that piece of mail should be returned to the sender, addressee unknown. So how does the Warren Commission get around this problem? Well, they call in good old Harry Holmes, who, surprise, surprise, turns out to be an FBI informant, okay, the man who supposedly located Oswald's money order, and he testifies to this. When a package is addressed to a P.O. box, a notice is placed in that box whether the name is on the application or not. And the person who has access to the box then goes to the window and is given the package without even having to prove that you're the person. All right, now, Holmes added that identification is not required because it is assumed that the person with the notice is entitled to the package. But that led to another problem, because then the Warren Commission and the FBI tries to find anybody in the post office who remembers giving Oswald the package. Okay? And they couldn't. They couldn't find anybody who remembered doing that. All right, finally, in 1963, postal regulations required that the shipper and the receiver of a firearm fill out a postal form number 2162. And the post office was required to keep that form for 4 years. And now, clients had to have known this because they were one of the biggest shippers of firearms in the whole country. All right? All right, and if the Warren Commission could have produced that, that would have been done a lot to bolster their case. All right? But the FBI, neither the FBI nor the Warren Commission ever raised the issue with any witness, either at Klein's or at the post office. Their lack of interest in the form has to show either, number one, someone else signed it other than Oswald, or number two, the post office lost it, or number three, the rifle was not shipped under those circumstances. All right. Now, the Warren Commission had to have known something about this point of Oswald's ordering of the rifle and his receiving a C276. It's a really, really important issue. But they ended up breaking up so many of the rules, of any, logical investigation, that so much of this evidence is hazy and unclear. It's really difficult to learn the truth about this particular point. But through this evidence, I think today that there is no real convincing case that Oswald ever picked it up, or he even sent in the money order. All right, now, I don't want to say what did happen, but I think there's some interesting information in this regard. Okay, Oswald goes from Dallas to New Orleans in April of 1963, but he doesn't put in a forwarding order of his mail until a month later. Oswald goes from New Orleans to Dallas in the latter part of September, but the forwarding order on that end is not done until he's supposedly in Mexico City. All right? All right, now there is not one piece of mail at the National Archives with any referral on it that goes to Ruth Payne's house, which is what the forwarding address was supposed to have said when he moves from New Orleans back to Dallas. Okay? Now, the actual forwarding forms where he wants the mail redirected, the ones in the National Archives are not originals. They're photostatic copies. All right? There is an FBI interview with the letter carrier in Irving, Texas, who was delivering mail to the area where Ruth and Michael Payne lived. He said that he recalled delivering mail for Oswald to the Payne household in the summer of 1963, all the way until the fall. And he said he was unaware of any redirection in Oswald's mail. Okay, one last tidbit. When Ruth Payne was testifying before the Warren Commission, they asked her about this funny notation she had on her calendar for October the 22nd, 1963, which had a little, I think it was a star or something, and then something at the top of the calendar explaining what the star was. All right? And she said that was when she understood that Oswald had ordered the rifle. And then they asked her, well, October the 22nd? And she says, oh no, that was a mistake. I should have said November the 22nd. So she misplaced the most important date of her life by 1 month, and nobody asked her about that. Okay? All right? But here's the problem, is that nobody knew the rifle had been ordered on November the 22nd. Okay, that is not established until November the 23rd, late in the afternoon. Okay, and these are the people that ABC puts on television to tell us all about Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, if you put together Ruth and Michael Payne on the rifle issue, with the Minix camera issue, with the so-called letter to the Mexico City Embassy issue to Mr. Costin, all right, then I think we have some really interesting leads to follow, about the people around Oswald, and if they had any cooperation in what he was supposed to have done. Okay, thank you. Okay, do I have enough time to take any questions? Oh, okay, great. Anybody? No? Okay. I guess everybody's so overwhelmed by my brilliance.
I had a question. You were mentioning about how the letter had a certain zone. Did you say zone 1 on the return address?
The what on the return address?
The zone number.
There's a numeral, right.
Yes. Was that handwritten as part of the return address, or was that a postal mark?
No, that was marked.
Okay, I was just wondering because, they worked the same way off the zip codes would have done, and I didn't know if that would have just been the return address and he could have mailed it from any post office.
Okay. What? No, they didn't back then. No.
Okay, so that was actually put on by the post office?
Right.
So it was mailed from the zone listed?
From the zone, when they receive the mail, it's marked from what zone so they can track where it came from.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I should add, I should have said this at the beginning. This is actually a combination of a guy named Roy Gallagher's work, who did an article for Probe, and John Armstrong has a very interesting chapter on this in his upcoming book, Harvey and Lee. Okay? And so I basically based it upon those two, and I got some of the documents that they referred to, and I actually talked to John about this. All right? So I just want to make sure
I have a
credit goes to people who are doing it. Yes, Dr. Ron?
Last week, the Sun-Times in Chicago ran a two-page story with Klein's Sporting Goods, a company official, Mr. Klein, who was very sorry about mailing the rifle and so forth, and he said they had put the ad in the American Rifleman. Is that your understanding?
See, this is really weird, because when Harry Holmes goes looking for the coupon, for the ad, he comes up with Field and Stream. Field and Stream, I think either October or November of 1963. All right, which of course is if you believe the Warren Report, is the wrong one. Okay, because if you look at the Warren Report, I think on page 119, they say that the coupon is from the American Rifleman, I think either February or March of 1963.
February.
Yeah, okay, February of 1963. Okay, and I think, but the Warren Commission actually displays the Field and Stream ad.
Right.
Okay.
And the February one is for a 35-inch rifle as opposed to the 42 one that was found on the 6th floor.
Yeah, see, that's another whole issue I could have gotten into, was the actual length of the rifle. Yeah. Okay? Right, because that's a very significant discrepancy, between what was supposed to be ordered and what the Dallas police end up with, is not the same. Okay, the length is not the same, or what it should have been. Let's put it that way.